Hey everybody, welcome to Pop Culture Philosophers. I'm Rockin Robbie Billups, and it's time for my top 10 comic books of the week. That's right everybody, thanks for checking out the video. I am Rockin Robbie Billups. This is my top 10 comic books of the week. We had a great week of comics this week. These are the 10 that I want to spotlight as my absolute favorites, and to me, must-haves. At number 10, we have Year Zero, number 2, from AWA Upshot. Written by Benjamin Percy, with artwork by Ramon Rosanos, Lee Lowridge on the coloring, Sal Cipriano on the lettering. Year Zero is a pretty nifty book. It's zombie fiction, yeah, another zombie story, but it's from a different perspective. It's told through the eyes of a few different characters that are spread throughout the world. So it's a global perspective on a zombie outbreak. The artwork is clean. It's clean, it's precise, yet it's detailed, and it also is layered. A lot of times, maybe you don't notice it so much, but there's a severe lack of backgrounds in a lot of comic books. This book is filled with backgrounds, cityscapes, little intricate details, and the art stays clean and focused all throughout that. The coloring is amazing. There's a different color palette for each character, which makes each scene very easy to differentiate, especially even when they just jump cut to the next one. A really great perspective and take on a zombie outbreak story. They're a dime a dozen. They're all over the place. Zombie fiction's been done to death, but now, like a zombie, it's risen again in the form of Year Zero. At number 9, we have the Lola Woods, number 6, from DC Black Label and Hill House Comics. Written by Carmen Maria Machado, artwork by Danny, coloring by Tamara Bonvillain, and lettering by Steve Wands. Yo, the Lola Woods might just wind up being my favorite Hill House comic book so far. I got to sit back and read all of them all the way through. I love Dollhouse Family. I love Basketful of Heads. I love all of them. Plunge, Daphne Byrne. But Lola Woods has such a deep, resonating, truthful theme behind it, and the way it unveils that theme through the story, through the subtext, and the actual plot is absolutely phenomenal to me. The moody and atmospheric artwork of Danny, absolutely beautiful. Danny is the artist on Coffin Bound, another fantastic book. Very excited for its return later on, coming up in just like a couple months or a month or something like that. However, Lola Woods, fantastic. Love the artwork. You got Tamara Bonvillain. She's seriously making the case that she's the best colorist in the business right now. There's a lot of contenders for that title. But right now, Tamara Bonvillain is killing it. Lola Woods, take a look at that. Take a look at Once and Future. Look at how you can tell that they're colored by the same lady, but they are completely done in a different style that's very appropriate to the story. I absolutely love this book. It had times where I was so confused, I didn't know what was going on. This is the final issue. It basically wraps everything up, takes care of all those loose ends, and it does it phenomenally well. This book has been one of the craziest and most challenging and fun rides I've had with a horror comic book in a while. It's a story of tragedy and true horror, and it actually has some really truthful subtext that's so subtly brought through and then so obvious by the end of it. I think it's just absolutely fantastic. Lola Woods. At number 8, That Texas Blood, number 1, from Image Comics. Written by Chris Condon with artwork by Jacob Phillips. That Texas Blood is like a neo-noir Texas Western. It's kind of like No Country for Old Men. In fact, in one aspect, it's very similar. It's about an aging sheriff in a small Texas town kind of come up against something that he can't understand or explain, right? Or at least, maybe that's what it seems right? So it's kind of got that connection to No Country for Old Men, but it establishes its own pace, its own tone, and it's something that's done exceptionally well. I believe that this is Chris's first published work officially, and you couldn't tell me that. You couldn't convince me that, you know? There is like one scene where the sheriff's telling a story where it does kind of get a bit too much, but in the entire flow of the first issue, it actually fits perfectly in the place where it's placed. The artwork is by Jacob Phillips. That's Sean Phillips' son, the cat that works with Ed Brubaker and all those noirish books. The style, at least as far as the paneling, the layout, the design, some of the composition, you can tell that's his father, and he's gotten some influence from that. But the line work, the intricacy of it, the rough edge to it, that's completely his own style. It's the best of both worlds. It's absolutely fantastic. This was a breath of fresh air. It was a really cool take. Not too much does happen in the first issue, but just enough to keep me really excited and compelled about what's coming out in future issues. If you like Westerns, if you like the neo-noir Texas Western, I definitely encourage you to check this one out. At number 7, Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen, number 7, from DC Comics. Written by Matt Fraction, with artwork by Steve Lieber, coloring by Nathan Fairbarn, and Clayton Cowles on the lettering. That's an all-star creative team for a non-all-star character. I hate Jimmy Olsen, but I love this comic book. This is one of DC's best comic books going right now. There's only one issue left. A lot of explaining gets done in this issue. A big setup for the big finale. This book has been great. Like I said, Jimmy Olsen's always annoyed me. I've said that so many times. But this book is masterful. It is so complex and dense in its structure. But it's still very much a fun ride. It takes so much of the absurd ridiculousness of the classic Jimmy Olsen books, and it throws it all in to this more modern, tongue-in-cheek kind of idea, but it's layered and structured with the story, with the artwork, with everything involved. This is like very meticulously crafted, and it shows. This book is phenomenal. It's absolutely amazing. It should have been up there with the Eisner contenders, in my opinion. Matt Fraction's putting in some of his best work just to get me to like a Jimmy Olsen comic book, period. That's fantastic, right? That's a job well done right there. The artwork is great. It fits the tone of the story. It handles the quirky absurdness of it, but it also handles the real moments, because there are real moments, and there are style changes in the artwork at times to reflect what's going on. It's a big mystery. It's been... If you think Tarantino is a hard creator to follow his stories, like if Pulp Fiction's like kind of too non-linear for you, don't read this one. This book has so many jumbled parts that each issue become more and more clear, and it's absolutely an amazing work, an amazing job by the creative team. Jimmy Olsen. At number 6, SOS Support Our Shops, the one-shot, with a ton of creators like Cullen Bunn, Steve Orlando, Jamie McKelvey, David Mack, Zyman Kudronsky, Phil Hester, Jerry Ordway, Marshall Dillon, Rose Stein, Cliff Richards, Zach Thompson. The list goes on and on. Support Our Shops is a really cool comic book that Aftershock Comics put together. It's got a bunch of different creators on it, doing all these little short stories. It's an anthology, one-shot, about the beauty and amazement of comic book stores. So they're very personal stories from the creators about their first experiences with a comic shop, and it's setting up the importance. This is kind of like a thank you to the shops that are struggling right now coming off of the COVID shutdowns and all that kind of jazz, right? So I really like this book. Of course, I do work at a comic shop, so I'm a little bit biased, but I found the stories to be rather touching. But I think if the comic shop is a very important place to you in your life and your development, I would highly encourage you to check this out. It was sent out to comic shops for free to help them out during these times so they could charge whatever they wanted for it. Most are probably just charging the normal cover price of a comic, $4 or $5, something like that. It's an absolutely amazing book, and buying one would really help your shop out, and reading it will remind you how important your comic shop can be to your own life. At number 5, Once in Future, number 8, written by Kieran Gillen, with artwork by Dan Mora, colored by Tamara Bonvillain, lettered by Ed Dukeshire from Boom Studios. It's no surprise. Once in Future makes the top 10. It pretty much is guaranteed to make the top 10 every single issue because this book is absolutely amazing and astonishing and just great. It's a great, fun, adventurous story that's kind of like a more modernized Indiana Jones type vibe. Like if Indiana Jones was like kicked up with the action level and the monsters, like Indiana Jones with monsters. That's what Once in Future is. It takes the Arthurian legend that you know very well and it flips it, inverts it, goes back a little bit more into the historical context and kind of paints Arthur as kind of a not good dude, right? So he's the bad guy, a very menacing Skeletor, uber Skeletor type figure. Super cool artwork. It's creepy and it handles the dynamic motion that's needed in those action scenes to pop. Dan Moore's doing such a great job on this. Tamara Bonvillain, I've already gone off about her work. One of the best, if not the best colorist in the business right now. In fact, my pick for best colors. If If someone's like, what's the best colors, Robbie? I'd be like, Tamara Bonvillain. Right now, Tamara Bonvillain. Killing it. Look at the artwork in this book. Tell me it doesn't ooze and sizzle and pop and just crackle with excitement and make you want to read it. I can just stare at these pages. The colors alone are luscious. The line work is crisp, clean, structured so well, and the story is so riveting and fun, and the characters are easily relatable. It's the hero's journey. It's the hero's journey about the hero's journey. It's absolutely fantastic. Once and Future from Boom Studios, no surprise. At number 4, Green Lantern 80th Anniversary 100-page super spectacular from DC Comics. Written and illustrated by a crap ton of people. We're talking James Tynion IV, Jeff Johns, Ivan Reis, Gary Frank, Cullen Bunn, Denny O'Neil, Mike Grell, Daryl Banks, Ron Mars, Peter Tomasi. The list goes on and on. Yet another really cool 100-page anniversary special for a DC character. We just had the Joker one-shot like a couple weeks ago, and to me that was the best 80th or big fantastic anniversary thing that DC's done, because they've been doing these. Are going to keep doing these. I will point out, by the way, I think next year, pretty sure that's Aquaman's 80th anniversary. So DC, if you're listening, I'm waiting. You got to call Jeff Johns, you got to call Peter David. Anyway, this is about Green Lantern. This book was awesome. My favorite story is the Jeff Johns, Ivan Reis story. That's one of my favorite eras of Green Lantern. Really love that post-Green Lantern rebirth stuff leading into Blackest Night. So I got the Ivan Reis cover, a whole bunch of covers, but all the stories in here were something that I found something very much to enjoy. The Jessica and the Simon stories, to me, were probably the weakest, but they weren't necessarily weak stories. But my connection to those characters, though strengthened by the very severely underrated Sam Humphries Green Lanterns run from Rebirth, those ones were okay. Some of the other stories were okay, but I liked the Denny O'Neil one. Took me back to those Neil Adams, Denny O'Neil days. The Jeff Johns one was such a fun one. The Gary Frank, James Tynion story for Alan Scott was so subtle and so powerful and masterfully done. Blew me away. Love it. It's right up there with the Joker as one of my favorite 80th anniversary specials. At number 3, Remnant. Number 1. It's one shot from Source Point Press, written by Michael Roslin, with artwork by Carly Ingracia, Davi Komodo as the colorist, and Sean Reinhart doing the lettering. Remnant was a really cool and kind of slightly, at least structurally wise, innovative story. That was just a one-and-done story from Source Point Press. I really was impressed with this book. It's telling the journey of humanity from having to be forced to leave Earth behind, go and colonize Mars, and do so, and then go beyond that. And it tells this story so efficiently in whatever page count it is. I don't know. It's a one-shot comic book, but it's great. It's going to stay in my collection. I was blown away. The artwork is very crisp, clean. I know I keep saying that, crisp and clean. What is this, a 7-Up or something? But no, it is kind of like drinking a 7-Up. But I really like the artwork. I really like the coloring. But what really captivated me about this was the innovation in the structure of the story. Being able to so economically tell the story that's a very generational story in such a limited number of pages. And the writer, Roslin, did that absolutely fantastically well. I was instantly into this story based on concept. I stayed in this story based on the characters, and I was absolutely captivated and enthralled at the end because of the structure. Remnant number 1, a one-shot from Source Point Press. It might be hard to find. Maybe just check out their website, but it is fantastic and definitely worth checking out. At number 2, Bleed Them Dry, a ninja vampire tale. Number 1 from Vault Comics, created by Hiroshi Kasumi, written by Elliot Rahal, artwork by Daike Ruan, colored by Miguel Muerto, and lettered by And World Design. Bleed Them Dry is a cyberpunk vampire ninja mashup, and I have ranted and raved already 2 times on this channel, during the weekly comic book review and on the advanced review that I did. I'm a big fan of Elliot Rahal's work, very excited anytime his name's on a book. I absolutely love the artwork in this book. It is dynamic, it's captivating, it's moving, it is absolutely gorgeous. There are cityscapes. This story is set in the future, the year 3333, and it's absolutely amazing. Vampires have risen up. They have become the dominant beings on the planet. Humans kind of hold them in a place of reverence, and then all of a sudden there's a serial killer attacking and targeting vampires. And now this is the story about a detective team, a human and a vampire, who are on the case, and they're kind of pressured to get the case done, and they wind up uncovering this crazy conspiracy. I've had the absolute joy of reading issue number 2 of this, and the stakes get even higher. No pun intended. I absolutely love this book. Ninja, vampires, cyberpunk. I've said in the weekly comic book review, it's like Blade meets Blade Runner a little bit. And that's 100% right. I love this book. I think it will blow you away. If you like horror and sci-fi and action, and when those 3 genres meet, you're going to love Bleed Them Dry. And at number 1, Batman, The Smile Killer, the one-shot from DC Black Label, written by Jeff Lemire, with artwork by Andrea Sorrentino, Jordi Belair on the coloring, and the lettering by Steve Wands. Batman the Smile Killer blew me away. It's Jeff Lemire, it's Sorrentino, it's Belair. This is a follow-up to the 3-issue DC Black Label series they did, Joker Killer Smile, which was astounding and kept dominating the top 10 lists every time it was coming out. One of my favorite books of the year. This is the kind of surprise epilogue to it. What it does is it takes what happened in Killer Smile and throws it into a different perspective, from Batman's perspective, right? And it does it in such a great, chilling, eerie, atmospheric, and absolutely unsettling and unnerving way. That is what we expect from Lemire and Sorrentino. They are, for instance, the team responsible for one of my absolute favorite comic books on the shelves, Gideon Falls. You add in Jordi Belair, an exceptional colorist. It works so well. This book, out of everything this week, had the biggest punch to me emotionally, and just story-wise, as far as just like being enthralled by the story, completely immersed into it. I loved all the twists and the turns. I love how it kind of shed some light on Killer Smile and then set up for more to come. Andrea Sorrentino actually responded to my tweet today, you know, weird stretch and flex there, but and said that don't worry, my time in the Batman universe is not done. And I think that Lemire and Sorrentino are going to continue on in this world that they're creating for Batman, and I really want them to, especially with Jordi Belair and Steve Wands. Steve Wands letters like every single Lemire book. I wonder why that is. Why does a writer get involved with such a typical letter? Do they think that maybe the lettering style represents the way they were? Anyway, I'm going off on tangents. Batman Smile Killer was absolutely amazing. The way it reflected and put more nuance onto the book that came right before it. I'm sure that when they collect it, it's all going to be collected together. This book is amazing. I want more. It's chilling. It's got the most beautiful and elegant composition and panel design of the week, if not the month. That's Sorrentino. He's establishing himself as one of the absolute best artists. Seriously, this book is done by one of the top 5 comic book writers right now, one of the top 5 comic book artists right now, colored by one of the top 5 colorists right now, and one of the top 5 letterers right now. No lie. This book has to sail, it has to soar, and it does. And it does it so exceptionally well. It's my pick of the week. So that's what I thought about what I read. What's your picks? What are your favorites? What's your top 3, top 5, top 8, top 10, top 25 if you want? I don't care. What are your favorite comic books that came out this week? What are you digging on? Let's keep that conversation going down in the comments down below. Thank you so much for checking out this video. Please do like, share, and subscribe, and click the notification bell, and join us over at popculturephilosophers.com for podcasts and a whole lot more. And Saturday evening, I don't know exactly what time yet, but Saturday evening, we're doing our top comic books of the month live stream. So it'll be me, Bueller, Bob from Everything Comics, Hero and the Kid, and Dylan from Dylan's Comics, all over at Bueller's channel, Comics with Bueller, and we're going to be live talking about our favorite comic books of June 2020, the month we finally got comic books back. Anyway, that's what we're doing. Very excited. We appreciate everything. Thanks for rocking with us. Keep on reading. I'm Rockin Robbie. Did that completely out of whack, but you get the deal. Keep rocking. Love y'all.